Perfect.
I don't want to record the presentation. Let me see. How do I do it in Canva, though? That's the only thing.
So I went to present mode in Canva.
Yeah, this is, but it's telling me to record. Okay. I'll go to the recording studio. We'll see.
Okay. I was able to just make it bigger. 1 minute, huh? Okay, let's see here.
I know, right? Oh, here, present. I got it. Got it.
Okay.
Present. Okay. Now let's see if on my. Did I do the thing?
Let me see. One thing is, as soon as I open up a tab, yes, you did it. Look at you.
Hey.
Hey, that's awesome. Perfect.
Okay.
Awesome. Great job.
Now, do I stop screen share until I'll stop screen share
if you want?
Okay. Okay.
I guess we'll wait. I can see how many. It looks like it's just us so far, so we'll wait a little while. How you doing? It's been a minute.
I'm fine. I'm great because one of my meetings got canceled today, so I have this huge block of time to do so many things. It's so sad when you like look at your calendar, you're like, yes, I got things canceled.
That's awesome.
Such a sad state. And hi, Jonathan. I don't know if we met yet. I'm
Solana. I don't think we have, but it's great to meet you. I'm excited to do this with you guys today.
Yes, we're so happy. I'm extremely happy because when Andrea I was like, wait a minute, this is 90 minutes? We need some more content and voices.
And I can stay on a little longer than half an hour. I don't have that.
Okay. We'll take what we can get. Let's see. I think she said she's going to pop in at some point and then she can mute everybody that comes in because we are in this workshop. So then I think we have to manually mute them in the workshop space if we want. So let's see.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
I see folks are starting to trickle in. Solana, I haven't seen you in so long.
Should we just start at like 5 after, Andrea?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Longer? Okay.
I think that makes sense.
I'm just finding the notes that Yesenia sent so that I can make sure that I'm saying all the right things.
You know all the right things.
Okay, so we're having folks trickle in slowly. Good morning. Good morning this Tuesday. I'm Andrea Lucata. I'm Executive Director of CABC. Welcome, everyone. You can see that I still have my scarf around my neck because I am still coughing, so I will be muted and off screen for most of today. I think maybe we can start off with introductions. Shamika, do you want to lead us off? Let's have just the speakers go and introduce themselves, name, your organization, anything else that you want to add.
Thank you. Good morning, Andrea and everyone. Thank you for joining us today to talk about Hope Accounts and CalSavers. We're really excited to be able to share more about implementation with this community on both of those fronts. I'm Shamika Gaskin, she, her. I'm President and CEO of GRACE in the End Child Poverty California campaign. Our work focuses on anti-poverty solutions, and over the last 5 years, our coalition, which is about 170 plus organizations, has been able to push for about $14 billion of investment in children and families statewide. And we are continuing to do that work collaboratively across the state with others to make sure that all our children are valued and free. So happy to be here. And I'll toss it to Solana.
Hi, Solana Rice, she, her pronouns. I'm based in Oakland, California, and I used to be on the steering committee for California Asset Building. And so I'm just a coalition. And so I'm so excited to be here with you all today. I am the co-founder and co-executive director of Liberation in a Generation. We are a movement support organization looking to advance a liberation economy in partnership with grassroots leaders of color across the nation. And it's a pleasure to be here. Look forward to a great conversation. Jonathan?
Thank you, Solana. Yeah, my name is Jonathan Herrera. I'm the Director of Outreach and Education for the CalSavers Retirement Savings Board. So CalSavers is the state's new retirement savings program for the millions of California workers who, go to work every day but don't have access to a retirement savings tool. So, the goal of our initiative legislation program is to, sort of democratize the financial services, or at least the retirement savings industry, and make sure that all California workers, regardless of where they work or where they come from, have access to the tools that they need to build themselves a strong financial future. So really excited to be here with the co-presenters, Shamika and Solana, because, with, some of the wins that we had last year collectively, I think, we're really excited about, the movement and the work that we're going to be doing over the next few years to really, address wealth inequality in the state. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We had a quick icebreaker, and since we have a sort of a small group right now for our workshop, I thought maybe we could start with it, and then some of our participants could come off mute and share if they would like. So our question for this morning, Tuesday morning, was, in thinking of the road ahead, what is something that is bringing you hope? And so we could either start with our speakers, or if any attendee wants to sort of jump in and share, that'd be wonderful. And introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Addison Peterson. I am a policy specialist with Cameo, the California Association of Microenterprise Opportunity. We are a member service organization. We train the small business trainers, people that train the small businesses. So that's what we do. I think one thing that's given me hope for the future is, man, that's a tough question these days. The hope that maybe our next generation can solve a lot of our problems, So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Nice to meet you, Addison.
Anyone
else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to jump in. I think the things that are giving me the most hope right now are these accounts, these hope accounts, these retirement accounts. I saw that the reparations committee has now recommended potential amounts for Black people in California. The college savings accounts programs at the local and state level. I just, guaranteed income. I think I love every single one of these measures that puts money in people's pockets without any strings about what you can and cannot do with it, that really treats people with dignity. Because I am frankly sick to death, hearing about what people should do with their money when, at the end of the day, it's about not having enough money. So, money makes all the difference. And I just love that so many of you have fought such great fights and have made this real. And now it's about making it roll out and implement these programs in the right way. So I'm just super jazzed about money going into people's hands.
That's awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Anyone else? For those of you who just joined, welcome, welcome. We're just having a little, doing an icebreaker of something that's bringing you hope right now. And I'll share. I mean, I think I was lucky enough last Friday to spend some time with some students at Stanford who are in the undergraduate program, but they're also very excited about baby bonds and its potential, and just to hear their excitement about what this could do for generations of children going forward, and to think about young people who would be at the age that they are right now having access to those accounts made me really excited, and to think about some of the young people there who felt like Stanford was not a possibility for them, but through lots of benefits and programs has become a possibility. And so that just made me really excited. So I'm with you on all the cash reports. Okay.
I'm happy to share next, and I think I was thinking the same things as all of you have already shared, right? I'm really excited about, I think, the momentum that a lot of these programs are starting to gain out there, to support folks, to get people the resources they need when they need them. And I'm also really excited about this next generation coming up, right? Gen Z, with a lot of energy, a lot of drive, and fight in them still to sort of pick up with this momentum and keep it going. So I'm with you guys on that one. Thank you.
I, of course, agree with you all, and all of those things are giving me hope. I'm going to go in a totally different direction and say that last night I was watching We're Here on HBO Max, and I think what gives me hope is a younger generation, but also this idea that freedom looks a lot of different ways, and that freedom is also about free from fear. And in the face of a lot of quite honestly, violence against trans folks and LGBTQ plus folks. Like I think every display of self-expression these days gives me hope. Like every small display and large display of joy and self-expression is like, it's what will set us free. So. Unexpected, quirky response.
No, it's beautiful. I love
not an asset building call, but
no, it's so important and it's so true. Thank you, Solana, for sharing that. Okay, well, maybe we'll go ahead and get started. And we're going to start. We're going to share a little bit about baby bonds, and then a little bit about the CalSavers program, and then we'll come back and talk about implementation and how we hope that you all will stay engaged in this work. So I'll turn it over to Solana.
Thank you all and for attending, and we'll start with just a little bit of an overview of the Baby Bonds program and why, but really we're grounding this in wealth inequality in the U.S. This is not new data for you all, but obviously there is growing wealth disparity still. 100 of the richest Americans own as much wealth as 42 million Black Americans. So that's $1.47 trillion for just 100 people versus $1.56 trillion for 42 million Black Americans. And I share that in large part because that statistic is actually fairly old. Now in the pandemic, we should anticipate that gap is even wider. And the idea that wealth for Black and brown people will be $0 by the middle of the century is also something that's quite dire. And I don't have to tell you all this. You all are the asset building folks. You know the importance of wealth. Wealth allows us freedom. Wealth allows us to truly participate in democracy. And obviously we have wealth hoarders that have shown the power of their dollar in our democracy. And so we have a lot at stake, not just for individual prosperity, but for our collective, our ability to collectively take care of one another. And so we're at a crossroads. We have some important decisions to make about how we are going to take care of one another in this nation. And I love what Andrea said, because I think it is about cash at this moment, and allowing people to understand and decide for themselves how they want to build that wealth and freedom for their families. Here is a quick snapshot of the racial wealth gap in California. Again, at CABC, you all are swimming in this kind of data all the time. But this really speaks to wealth concentration. That 30 of the wealthiest zip codes hold 20% of the net worth in California. And that's compared to, generally a much lower rate of wealth for folks, for Black and Latino folks across the state. And so we're not any exception to the rule of national disparity. So why baby bonds, and what are baby bonds? They aim to advance social and economic well-being, as well as close the racial wealth gap. My friend Derek Hamilton and his former colleague Sandy Darity Jr. established this idea of baby bonds. These are essentially child trust accounts that contribute public sector dollars into trust accounts for children. But here's why I think they're so important. Back when I was working at national think tanks, we would often say that parents will do for their children what they won't do for themselves. But I think it's time for us all to do for children what we won't do for ourselves collectively, which is believe that we all deserve a future, that we all deserve to be taken care of, that we all deserve our basic needs to be met. And I think that the baby bonds idea and these very real accounts hold that goal in trust, right? And it also fundamentally butts up and dispels this idea that Black and brown people are not deserving, that we don't deserve full economic citizenship, that we shouldn't be endowed or guaranteed anything. And there are some things that we should be guaranteed and endowed. And so of all the things, Liberation in a Generation is working on a slate of guarantees, these ideas that are fundamentally changing our assumptions about economic relationships in this nation. And they're not new ideas. Baby bonds, or guaranteed to inheritance, as we like to call it, is not a new idea. I mean, Sandy and Derek have been working on these ideas for a long time and advancing them in their own ways and in important ways. But things like a guarantee to federal jobs, guaranteed to income. These are very actually old concepts, but put together, they could fundamentally open up new pathways to freedom and liberation for Black and Brown people. So with that, I will turn it over actually to Shamika for talking a little bit more about baby bonds.
Thank you, Solana. And so the California Baby Bond Project, and I don't remember what our other slides were. I think we have one more slide after that, Solana, for implementation. But part of what we wanted to talk a little bit about with you all today is sort of what did we win in terms of this sort of seed of hope that Solana so beautifully laid out. And miraculously, really for us, I think we all thought, we were coming into a project, as Solana said, that has been tried before and had tried to move the legislature, but sometimes it's a little bit of magic just of timing and where the budget was that, we were able to move it through this year. And we were able to get $100 million one-time funds and 15 million ongoing funds were appropriated under the California state budget bill to establish HOPE accounts for children. Eligibility for low-income children who have lost a parent or primary caregiver to COVID-19 and children in long-term foster care. When we started this, the goal really was to think about how could we ensure that all low-income children would be able to have access to these accounts. But, we started with the children who lost a parent to COVID because we know that those children have not experienced, they didn't experience sort of the pain of the pandemic equally, right? And the majority of those children were living in high poverty neighborhoods. So at the time that we started thinking about this and Senator Skinner introduced the bill, we were at around 16,000 children, and today over 32,000 Californian children have lost a primary caregiver or secondary caregiver to COVID since May of 2022. So, according to this study called the Hidden Pain Report, we know that more than 70% of these children are 13 or younger. And so our goal really is to try, as Solana talked about, hold and trust this goal that these children have the ability to have someone thinking and caring for them and holding away assets for them in the future. So I think one of the things that we also have thought about is how these funds will be a seed of hope for children who've been faced incredible generational trauma as a result of not only the racial wealth gaps and the social inequities of the pandemic, but as we know, this child welfare system, which has, and California has almost 60,000 children. The majority of those children have come into contact with the system through what has traditionally been thought of as neglect. And when we know sometimes neglect mostly means that families can't take care of themselves and they don't have the resources they need to take care of their children, which has unintended consequences. And so the goal here as a first step is to try and put these funds aside for these two groups of children to really think about the continued gaps that we know that they will face when they transition into adulthood, but also to think about how do we expand this program as a longer term vision to supporting more and more children in California. So the next steps will be in the implementation process there will be an advisory work group. This is a work group of community stakeholders with knowledge and experience in poverty alleviation, youth development, access to banking for underbanked individuals, asset building, as we're here, the racial wealth gap, consumer protections, and wealth coaching, to tackle some really critical questions that were posed in terms of how to set up these accounts. One of our goals for the program is to ensure that our children who are undocumented are a part of the program. So we want to find solutions to make sure that they can be included given the federal banking laws. Effective outreach strategies to ensure accounts are established for the maximum number of children who may be eligible, and monies are drawn down by those eligible youth when they are available. And ultimately to deliver a very detailed plan for implementation of the program and for establishing and maintaining HOPE accounts for the eligible children now, but also thinking about how can we maximize that, their participation, their autonomous wealth building capacity, and to include more children. So the timeline right now is our first meeting will be sometime in January 2023. The advisory work group is stood up by the Office of the Treasurer, and they will be leading that. And then the detailed plan has to be delivered back to the legislature by February 2024. So that's sort of where we are on the implementation piece is. And with that, we will turn it over to Jonathan to talk about CalSavers.
Thank you, guys. Do you mind if I take over the screen share, please?
Yes, as soon as I figure out how to stop it.
I know the feeling. I was test driving this thing before we were starting, and I was struggling a little bit.
If you go, Solana, above your, like on your screen, it should say like stop. It's like on the like black box at the top. I know. It's like kind of hidden. So like if you look above where you're screen sharing.
Oh, like here? No.
No. Go back to your tab. Go back to your Accelerant tab.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you should be able to see it. Do you see it?
I'm just trying to stop share, Andrea.
Yeah, I know. If you go there, you should see it.
I see it, screen and video already shared. Sorry, y'all.
So just click the screen share button again. Solana, if you're the one, does that get you out?
No, it just says screen and video already shared. Share options, and then I let it do that.
Maybe if Jonathan, if you just click to share, can you try?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says it's already shared and it doesn't give me the option.
Oh boy.
Okay.
All right, hold on one second. Let me see what I can do.
If you go to where you see yourself and then it says recording at the top.
Yeah.
Do you see that? And then right under that, you don't see anything that says like Solana Rice is presenting?
Stop presenting.
Oh, there we go. You got it. All right.
Perfect.
Let me see. I think hopefully I'm probably gonna have the same struggles taking it down, but hopefully you guys can see my thing up there now. Let me start real quick by just saying, thank you to CABC and all of the members, for giving me the opportunity to present today, and for all of the support that, CABC as a coalition and all of the individual members have, lent to this initiative, CalSavers, over the years, right? There was CABC was a huge part of the coalition that got the original bill passed, both in 2012 and 2016. And then, of course, last year we pushed another bill to expand the program. And again, CABC played a really strong role in advocating the legislature to pay attention to what we're doing here. So I really appreciate that. I also appreciate Shamika and Solana's presentation because, retirement savings doesn't tend to gather a big audience or inspire a lot of passion among folks, but what you guys are doing is really cool. So thank you for bringing in the audience and sharing the stage, or allowing me to share the stage with you guys. As I said in the introduction, CalSavers is the state's effort at addressing this retirement savings access gap that exists in the state, right? It's, designed for those millions of California workers who are going to work every day, playing by the rules, but don't have access to a workplace-based savings program. I think, this is a really important conversation to be having right now because, during this confluence of market forces that are challenging everyone's short and long-term financial outlook, right? First, we've got so many people who are working to overcome the financial setbacks caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we have this extra pressure of inflation, right? Rising costs of housing, healthcare, all the goods and services. It's not new, but, the forces are stronger than they have been in the past. So, folks who can are looking for ways to improve their financial wellness and save for the future. So, we're proud to be promoting the program during this period because I think, now more than ever, we can see how vital it is for all of us to have financial resiliency in the short and long term. And that's exactly what CalSavers was designed to do, to help people on both of those measures. So I know my time is short and I always get excited when I talk about the program. But so, my goal is to just give you sort of a little refresher on what CalSavers is all about, high level design of the program, and then update you on the rollout and share some of the successes that we've seen, both in the state building our program and expanding the sort of national movement to encourage similar retirement savings programs in other states. So let's see. Now I need to figure out if I can advance my slides from here. There we go. So I think the best place to start is just talk about, the situation that exists in the state that the legislature was trying to address when they passed the bill that created the program. And what we see is nearly half of Californians are projected to retire into economic hardship if they can retire at all, which, is a really sobering statistic when you think about it for a state, like California. But again, not surprising given, the wealth gaps that exist in our state. And we think that a key driver of that fact is that there's millions of Californians. This is old data. We're estimating it's about 8.5 million now. But millions of Californians, again, going to work every day, playing by the rules, but lack access to a workplace-based retirement program. And when you dig into the demographics of this population, you can see that 2/3 of them work for small businesses with less than 100 employees. 2/3 are people of color. More than half are women. So, really see the intersectionality with the other, wealth disparities that, my co-panelists were talking about. But this access is really important because the research also shows that, workers are 15 times more likely to be saving beyond a path towards retirement security if they have access to a payroll deduction savings plan at work, right? Nothing crazy. It's not rocket science. It's just an easy way to save from the paycheck automatically with each paycheck, set and forget it, making small deposits over time to sort of build their nest egg for the future. And that number actually goes up to 20 times more likely when the program features automatic enrollment, which, is something we're proud to say CalSavers does. So, knowing that the best way to get folks saving on a path towards retirement security is through the workplace. Back in 2016, the legislature passed the original bill that enabled or that authorized the program. And then we'll talk about some of the changes that are coming up in just a second. But, first and foremost is this employer mandate. So the current rule is any business in the state that has an average of 5 employees and does not offer a qualified retirement plan is required to register for CalSavers and facilitate their employees' access to the program. So, that means employers who had a retirement savings plan are exempt. Employers who go out and start a retirement savings plan are exempt from the mandate. But for everyone else, we've created CalSavers for employers as a really simple plug-and-play fee-free solution for employers to be able to satisfy this mandate. Now, I mentioned the bill that we passed, and we'll talk about this in more detail, but this requirement is actually going to expand to 1 or more employee in 2023. Other key feature of the program, which is really important for getting folks started and on a path towards saving, is this automatic enrollment feature the program has. So it's completely voluntary for employees. We're not trying to force people to divert money from the paycheck that they might need for everyday expenses. Folks can opt out if they don't want to participate. But the best way to get folks saving is to just eliminate the barriers, get them going, and make them actively opt out if they don't want to participate. So automatic enrollment for the program. It's designed as a public-private partnership. So, I work for a 9-member board chaired by the state treasurer, but we've contracted with, professional firms to manage the day-to-day operations of the program. And it's our responsibility to oversee the program, right? Make sure that it's operating in the best interest of California workers. And then, other cool thing about the program, we're building it 0 cost to the state and the taxpayer. The program is going to be entirely self-sustaining based on the small fee that we charge participants. We can talk about that in a little bit if you guys want to. But, important thing here, it's a win-win for the state because, we're operating on a small startup loan, which we're going to pay back, but, we'll get folks saving and building wealth for their futures through this program, hopefully. So eligibility is super important. Obviously, we wanted to make it as accessible as possible for as many Californians as possible. So, if folks are working for an eligible employer, if they're collecting W-2 wages from that employer, they're eligible for the program regardless of how many hours they work. So part-time, full-time, seasonal employees are all eligible for the program, and the employer is required to give them access by state law. We also opened up the program for individual participation. So folks who don't work for an eligible employer but who are looking for a way to save can join. They just have to have any type of earned income. That's an IRS rule for IRAs. We couldn't get around it, but so any folks with earned income can join as long as they're 18 years or older and have a social security number or an ITIN. And, again, that's a feature that was strongly advocated for by members of CABC. So we're proud to say, open for ITIN holders. Again, we want to make this program as accessible as possible and give everybody the opportunity to save, regardless of where they come from or where they work. We also don't see ourselves as intended to replace compete with employer-sponsored plans, right? We're not here to compete with the private sector, although we are here to encourage innovation, and we are already starting to see the private sector responding with better, cheaper plans, making it easier for savers to save and for employers to offer programs with more bells and whistles than CalSavers has. So I mentioned this bill that thanks to the efforts of CABC and others, expanding program access for workers throughout the state. Again, our mission was to make sure that all workers in the state of California have access to the program. But with the old bill only applying to employers with 5 or more employees, we were falling a little bit short of that goal. So last year we ran a bill, SB 1126 by Cortez from the East Bay, expanding the mandate for CalSavers to any employer with at least 1 employee. You can tell that the last time I used this slide was for an employer audience because it leads off with simplifying the process for employers, which is important, right? There were a lot of confusion among those small businesses that were up and down around the 5 or more employee mark. Some years they have 5, some years they have 4. There were questions about whether or not they'd be able to continue to participate. But most importantly, it opens the program for an additional 330,000 small businesses that might have had trouble finding retirement savings programs for their employees that worked for their business. And that represents about 750,000 additional more savers, employees who could potentially get access to a program where they might not have had it before. Also, it'll help us reduce the fees for the existing savers, right? The faster we go program, the sooner the fees go down. These new businesses that are newly eligible as a result of this law, we're not going to start going after them and force compliance right away. We're giving them a nice long runway. They'll have until December 31st of 2025. But once again, I want to thank CABC for the support here and helping us get this bill over the finish line last year. So next, I just wanted to talk really quickly about some design features, just so everybody remembers what we're all about. We're an automatic payroll deduction IRA, so that means contributions are deducted directly from employees' paychecks and deposited into an IRA. Again, it's completely voluntary for our savers; they can opt out or opt back in at any time. We wanted to make it as simple as possible for employees to be able to participate. Right? It's important that they save, but it's important that it's easy for them to do it. That's the key to getting folks, building wealth through retirement savings vehicles. It's completely portable. So those of you who have been out there advocating for portable benefits, this is an example of that coming to fruition. So rather than being tied to an employer like a traditional retirement savings program, this one will follow the employee wherever they go, and they can continue to build assets in the same account as they move from employer to employer throughout through the labor marketplace. And of course, it is, there is a small fee for savers, but our goal is always going to be to keep it as cheap as possible so that folks can, actually build wealth over the long term. So depending on the investment option that they choose, they'll pay anywhere between 0.83% and 0.99%. So basically that means for every $100 they have in the account, it's 83 cents to 99 cents, again, for every $100 per year. So very cheap, and then it's built into the program that as it grows and reaches scale, those fees will automatically go down and build assets in the program. So I won't spend much time on the standard versus customized features, but I did see that there was a way to upload my slides to the program so that people can access them. Or if you're, folks who watch the recording afterwards can pause here and learn a little bit more about, the features that we have in the program. But, just long story short, we wanted to make it as flexible as possible and meet people where they're at. So we chose a Roth IRA to provide a little bit of flexibility. Folks can access their contributions before they reach retirement age without paying taxes or penalty. So if somebody has a financial emergency, they can withdraw from the account without, paying taxes or penalties. They have complete control over how much they contribute, and they've got a little bit of an option into how they want to invest their money. Right? We've got 5 different options that sort of operate on the spectrum of more aggressive to more conservative. And of course, we do have an ESG or environmental social governance fund. So people who want to invest in responsible companies can have an option to do that. But again, folks can customize their account and interact with the program any way that they want, at least that we have available. So since I noticed that we have at least Cameo on here as an organization that's supporting small businesses, I did just include one slide for those of information about how this affects employers, for those of you who are supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs. We designed CalSavers to address sort of 3 important hurdles that employers cite when we ask them why they're not offering a plan. We try to make it as easy as possible for employers to facilitate. There are no fees for employers, so there's no out-of-pocket cost for employers to be able to help their employees save for retirement. It's a big change for the marketplace. And then, of course, employers aren't taking on that fiduciary responsibility that they would have if they were sponsoring their own plan. All employers have to do, register by their deadline, set up their account, keep a roster of their eligible employees with CalSavers. So, they upload a roster of their employees, and then they continue to add new employees within 30 days of the new employee's hire date. And then they'll just continue to submit employee contributions as part of their existing pay process. So again, try to make it as easy as possible for employers to be able to help their employees save, and use this as a tool to recruit new employees in a tough labor marketplace, and reward their employees for sticking around. Retain their employees too. So just continuing the victory lap, CalSavers and thanks to CABC's support, just wanted to share a little bit of an update on where we're at in building the program. So we're super excited to share that to date, and we launched the program, remember, back in July of 2019, but we've now had more than 886,000 workers throughout the state enroll in the program, and more than 386,000 have actually funded their accounts at this point. The difference between those two numbers is the employers who haven't started facilitating contributions for their employees yet. We're looking at a 63% participation rate of all of the eligible employees who, for whom we were able to open accounts, which is really exciting considering that CalSavers doesn't come with some of those, extra incentives like an employer match. There's no public match at this point. So it's really just employees taking the opportunity to save when it's offered to them. Keep in mind also that, our target workforce, based on the information from our feasibility study, said that the majority of folks who are going to be eligible for CalSavers are probably making between $25,000 and $35,000 a year. So, this is probably low to moderate income workers taking advantage of the opportunity to save what it's given to them. To that end, I think it's pretty cool to point out that the median monthly contribution, $123. So if you figure someone's, doing a weekly paycheck, that's about $20 to $30 a paycheck. So again, making it easy as possible, even for folks who might have tight budgets, to be able to stick a little bit of money away at a time is super helpful. So more than 111,000. We actually probably have over 111,600 at this point as of today. And then total contributions into the account, we're looking at $363 million. So again, super exciting to see that amount of money saved, not only by the population that we serve, but again, just realizing these are folks that probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to save those funds if it weren't for this program. So thanks again, CABC, for helping us build this program and spread the word about the program. And California is not alone in this. We were the first state to pass legislation to create a state-sponsored retirement program. 2 other states beat us to actually opening them, Oregon and Illinois. Not that I'm competitive or anything. But since then, 2 more programs have opened, and there's legislation pending or passed in more than 30 states. So there are only 4 states at this point who haven't had any recent state efforts to create a program similar to CalSavers. So, really exciting that, again, California is, sort of taking the lead on showing folks other states how to build programs like this. So once again, thank you very much to the CABC and all of its members, all of you who helped us build this program. I'm looking forward to talking to next steps a little bit with our co-presenters, but I'll tell you that the next big step is for us to find ways to work together to help spread the word about this program in the communities that you serve, and help people understand why this is such an important opportunity for folks to take advantage. So I'll be looking forward to talking to you guys about that in the next sections of this presentation. But for now, I'll turn it back over to Shamika and Solana to keep us rolling on this panel.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Such a wonderful presentation, and so excited about just the progress that's been made. I thinking about my dad, because he ran his own construction company. Well, he still does, right? So self-employed folks for years had no options, and so or decades really. So this is just so exciting. So thank you, and I'm going to ask Solana to kick us off. again and just talk about a little bit about sort of what's our big vision for Hope Accounts. You know, Jonathan, I think it's so interesting that we're talking about sort of the front end and the retirement in the same conversation. And so I'll start with you. What's our big hope, our big vision for the Hope Accounts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you ended on the more tactical pieces, which is obviously expanding it to as many people and kiddos as possible. And I think it's so important because we do these sort of like carve outs because they're political wins, right? We started with employers with at least 5 employees because we felt like, okay, we can get those folks, but we should always know that that's never, the win is never the end of the story. It's like, okay, we're gonna go for more and more, and that's why we get so much resistance too, because people know, like, we're not gonna stop here. And I think it's so interesting that, like, Jonathan, you're like, yeah, we're not going to compete with private market retirement accounts. And I'm like, oh, but eventually, please, like, like possibly. Because I think what you're demonstrating is that you're opening up the possibility, and you're showing that, like, private markets are going to respond even to a public market option. And that's what I think our goal is, day in and day out. I mean, I think our overall, at least I'll speak for Liberation in a Generation, like overall what we want to see is everyone having their basic needs met, that we are finding safety and security, that we're valued and compensated for the contributions that we make to our communities. And I really imagine that in the baby bond realm as freedom to make a decision about how to build wealth. I don't think that we're like redefining wealth itself. Like, I think there are going to be some traditional definitions of financial wealth. And I think that's about what I've been talking a lot to Mia Birdsong, and we've been talking about, like, having the one foot in the future and the one foot in the current. Like, currently, our definition of wealth is very much financial, and we need to make sure that is solid for people. And we can imagine a world where wealth is about more than is about freedom, and what is freedom and all those things. We can hold those two things at the same time. But what I'm really hoping for is that, we're aiming for freedom for the kiddos to decide how they want to build wealth. And I do think that's a big conversation in our fields about prescribing what people do with their money versus letting them decide. And I think we have examples of wealthier folks getting to decide what they want to do over and over again. We have examples of wealthier folks losing that wealth and deciding to start over and doing something. So it's like, I think we should trust folks. And I think it's interesting, like CalSavers, when we talk about retirement accounts, we're not like, oh, you have to use this in a certain way when you withdraw. So that's the vision that I hold.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think it's so important to talk about how we can hold paradoxes. And I think that is, because it's key. We have to do that to be able to imagine a liberated future where there is financial health and wealth for everyone, because that's not what our country was built on, right? So I think we're in alignment on that. And I think the other vision for Hope Accounts for me right now, I think that I'm really consciously holding, is that we're talking about something that's going to happen almost 2 decades from now. And none of us can predict what the world will look like, if there's Zoom, if there's apps, if there's still the gig economy. Like, there's so many unknowns. And so I think I'm holding a vision in which we've done everything to make sure we stay connected to these young people so that they can actually live into that freedom and autonomy. Because, political winds change, organizations move on, and hopefully this money will still be sitting in the bank somewhere, and when it matures, that those children know how to connect and access it, and live out their dreams with it. So I think that's sort of my vision, is making sure we don't drop the ball along the way and figuring that out, which feels very difficult, but I believe we can do it. So, Jonathan, how about you?
Well, let me start this by saying that, I'm coming to you guys as a state official. So, I have to, even though, I can start off with, these are my own opinions and all that kind of stuff, it never actually works that way. So I'm going to, I think, the big vision for CalSavers is that, we recognize, or at least I personally recognize, that it's not the silver bullet to, addressing wealth inequality in the state, but it is an important component, right? Because access is key. So, we are going to continue to build this program and try to spread it, among, throughout the population of the state. And hopefully, other folks will continue to advocate for those other really important big pieces of the picture that will make it even more effective for people, as they build wealth. So that being said, I'm just going to focus on the what you described as the tactical piece, which is, it's cool to say that we're a hybrid program, right? That we're a public-private partnership, but that also means that we have two different types of headwinds, right? So we've got folks who are uncomfortable about participating in the financial system, because they haven't had access in the past. And then we also have people who are skeptical of government programs. So, we're fighting a little bit of both. And I think, one of the best ways for us to overcome that is to work with, trusted organizations within communities who are already doing financial inclusion work, who are already doing financial education work, and finding ways to integrate CalSavers, or at least long-term savings, into those conversations, and just make people feel more comfortable, recognizing that not everybody is ready to save at any particular point in their life, which is why it's important that, a program like CalSavers is optional. It's there when people need it. They can pause it, they can access it if there's an emergency, stuff like that. But, really just working with folks like you all, with the energy and the relationships to go out there, and make a difference in people's lives and help them build a strong financial future. So again, CalSavers isn't the answer to all the problems, but it's definitely a small piece of it. And we're excited to see I'm excited to see all of the other work that's going on, around the space.
Thank you. Okay, well, this is our portion where our audience is open to ask us any questions, and for discussion. I mean, I think also we would love to, because we have experts on our little workshop here, to ask you questions too about the best way we can go about really building public awareness, as Jonathan said, and making sure that the people who are eligible for these benefits and other wealth building tools are actually going to get access to them now and in the future. And if you have thoughts on sort of what those roadblocks or challenges might be that we should be thinking about, to be able to come off mute and have a discussion with us. No pressure, but that's the part that we were most looking forward to.
Hi, I put my question in the chat box, but one of the things that I love most about CABC is just how diverse our membership is, and that we can bring folks, like I'm watching Mohan and Addison come off mute and come on camera, and here's, we've got folks from entrepreneurs, we've got folks from, folks who are doing college savings, right? I mean, CABC's membership is so broad, and includes folks who, yesterday we had folks who were presenting on post-incarceration and fines and fees. I mean, we cut across so many sectors, and I'm trying to build, solidarity between all of us so that we can support each other's advocacy issues, but also provide resources and refer people to all of the resources across all of these programs that people qualify for. I guess I'm asking the question back to you, which is do you guys have like any sort of, communications toolkit or social media or fact sheets or anything like that that we can be sure to send to all of our members to say, hey, even if you don't work on these issues, your families, the families that you work with are probably interested in these resources. Keep these available so you can refer people to the information. Or is that something that we could help you do?
I think for us it's a both and, like we're working on that, right now I think we want as many people to join when the advisory work group begins to have public meetings to be, I think we'll be able to send that information around so that organizations and individuals can join those public meetings and be a part of the process of building out the recommendations for implementation of the program. So we're working on that so we can be able to make sure that we can share with the CABC community so that we have as many folks participate as possible.
Let's see, I'll go next here. So we do have an online toolkit. If you go to calsavers.com treasurer.ca.gov/calsavers, and I'll put the link in the chat here so that people can see it. But tons of great resources, all of the flyers, all of the information. We've got videos on there. But I think most importantly, for a lot of folks to recognize, just to your point about this will probably affect some of the people that you work with, is that with CalSavers, whether the employer signs up for CalSavers or whether they go out and sponsor their own qualified retirement plan, most workers are going to have access to something. Now, obviously, with the qualified plans from the private market, there are some ways that folks can exclude, employers could exclude part-timers or seasonal workers and stuff like that. Not the case with CalSavers. So there might be some exceptions with the private sector plans, but generally speaking, it will affect almost everybody that you come across. If they're working in California, then they should have access to some type of tool. So, whether it's CalSavers or just conversations about how important it is to think about long-term savings and how much easier it is than people think it is, right? Especially I always, think about some of my experiences earlier when I was younger, living paycheck to paycheck on my own, trying to put myself through school, work a couple of jobs at the same time just to, pay rent, put food on the table. But in one of my jobs, I was actually automatically enrolled in my first 401k at 18. And, it wasn't much, but I was contributing just a little bit at a time. And, when the check was some weeks, the checks were a little bit more than others, but you make those adjustments, as you're working through it. So, just encouraging folks who can and do have the opportunity to save. And then we've got tons of resources that we can share with you guys to help spread the word about that. And then for those folks who are working with employers, this is a compliance issue, right? So if you're out there supporting small businesses, they need to know about this, and we would love to work with organizations who are supporting employers, especially with this new group of employers between 1 and 4 employees. Those are going to be the hardest to reach, throughout the state. We had our struggles with the information gap just rolling out the first part of the program. Now we need to figure out how to get in touch with a whole new, more challenging group of employers. So, just trying to find those organizations who are working with those populations so that we can try to work together to spread the word. And we'll provide the materials and the speakers.
Thank you, Andrea, for the question. Yes. Oh, go ahead, Solana.
No. Mohan had a question, like an actual question.
I can't see where are you guys. I can't see the chat, so please just come off mute if I'm missing you in my facilitation here. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Jonathan, this question's for you. I'm just curious if you could help describe what that engagement with employers actually looks like in practice. Is there letters that are going out every year to tell them that there's this requirement? Are there folks that are available to help them, one-on-one with actually signing up? Like, can you help paint a picture of what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thank you for it. So it starts with direct communication to all of the employers that we've identified as eligible, right? So we have a data sharing agreement with EDD. So they give us employer data, and they give us the number of employees that they reported, in their wage reports for the previous, for the previous quarter. And we use that to identify eligible employers, and we've been doing direct communication to those employers basically since the bill passed. So they're getting letters, they're getting emails. They start getting increasingly bureaucratic as we get closer to the deadlines, right? We're like, you got 30 days to sign up for, So it starts with that, but that's only a small piece, right? Because people see junk mail, people get, marketing solicitations all the time that try to look official and all that kind of stuff. So, the second piece of our outreach work is to, again, work through trusted messengers. So industry associations, chambers, groups like Cameo, the SBDCs, Small Business Majority, and the California Small Business Association. Basically, any places where employers are congregating, we would love to get introductions and be able to, offer any information. And then, we really defer to the audience on what that looks like. We've got, I've got a field team of 7 folks based throughout the state who go out and do presentations for folks. Our program administrator has a wonderful customer service team, multilingual, available over the phone. So they got one-on-one support from the field team. They can get one-on-one support from our call center. Even our field team's multilingual, English, Spanish, Cantonese, and Mandarin, available for, one-on-one working with employers, doing presentations for employees on site, just to help, address this access gap. So hopefully that answers some questions about what that outreach looks like.
And I have to hop off, y'all, but I was just, as Andrea was like recounting all the things that are happening in the state and locally, it's quite impressive. Like, it's actually adding up to quite a lot. And I think they all the programs that I can think of probably have some kind of outreach challenge in finding the people that qualify and having those trusted brokers. So it seems like my thought was, wow, what if CABC had like a directory to give to all the members, so that those community organizations have at their fingertips all the things that people could possibly qualify for. I know that's a lot of work and it needs to get funded. That's not lost on me, but
it's actually in the works. It's something that I've been talking about and developing for about a year now, and it looks like it is something that EPIC, Ending Poverty in California, and CABC are going to partner to do. So in the next few months, we hope to have a website that is a directory of asset builders, economic justice advocates, and we have still a lot of design work to do, but we, it's unbelievable that we don't have this already. You can look for legal aid assistance online and see all of the legal aid lawyers, and sort by what kinds of work what kind of help you need. We want to create something like that for all of us, not only because we want to be able to refer people to each other, but also just to see that we are a huge community. We're often, a lot of us are working in our lanes and we feel alone. And I really want people to see just how many organizations there are and the amazing overlap that we often have. So that is definitely something that I've been working on, and it's just a matter of implementation, So yeah, we look forward to seeing some announcement about that in the next few months.
congrats all. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you, Solana.
I
Wow.
just wanted to make a comment, not so much a question, it's to Jonathan. I did talk to a small business owner about CalSavers, and he loves the program. He said it was super easy to sign up, and the employees love it because they finally have a low cost, they have some kind of option for retirement, and the employer doesn't have to pay for it, right? So he's happy, and it took like 10 minutes to set up. So for him, he's happy, and he said, I'm not the most tech savvy person, and I was able to do it. So yeah, he was very happy about it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That really is our goal. And unfortunately, in my role, I end up engaging with some employers that, might have had a bad experience or whatnot.
Yeah.
So just to hear the good ones out there, it's just so refreshing and rewarding. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Any other questions for us or comments or thoughts? Okay. Well, we appreciate. Oh, go ahead, Angela.
No, I was just going to take us to a close.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate Solana, Shamika, Jonathan for presenting this amazing body of work. I continue to be awed by what you all have accomplished and what we as a community accomplish all the time. I love, I'm not native to California, but I love living in California. And I say that to everyone for its natural beauty, but also for its activism and the amazing people that make this community. If you haven't had a chance to look through our report that we released, please do so. It features quotes from so many advocates and service providers. You can get to know not only what they're doing, but how they're doing it, and just see the amount of love that they bring to the work. That's one thing that I really appreciate about this community. So with that, I just want to thank you all for participating, and we can wrap up early. Come back at 10:30. We are going to have an amazing discussion about what the political landscape looks like heading into 2023. We're going to have lots of amazing advocates and facilitated by Jeannie Kwan at Cal Matters, and it should be a really great conversation before we get into the big conversation about what our policy agenda looks like. So if you haven't had a chance, go use the Consider It tool. It's linked in the last session. People have been working it, and I see that the child care subsidy folks are voting for their proposal. It looks like a front runner, but we've got folks, we've got proposals there about healthcare, about housing, about safety net for immigrants. There's a lot of great issues, so get in there and make your voice heard and participate in the discussion later on. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this.
Everyone can just leave and the session will end.